Cleveland drops a winnable series and game to the Astros in the finale, and we evaluate the 13 games and 13-day stretch from the Guardians on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in, Guardians fans, to an episode of Locked On Guardians, your only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast that covers your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. Hopefully, it's our last solo show for a while. I was sick on Tuesday evening and tired from some work travel. Jeff pulled a solo for me, and I'm giving him the day off to recuperate from that. And then I'll be home Thursday to do another episode with Jeff. Hopefully, we'll cover much more fun things than another Guardians loss. I'm Justin Lada, one of your two co-hosts here, and have been for 4 years. And I've got 19 years of experience covering the Guardians farm system. On today's show, we'll look at the offense and how it cost the Guardians a series they really could have used. We'll review how the series played out like we thought. We'll look at the pitching a little bit. And coming up later, we're going to look at the Guardians' stretch of 13 games in 13 days, how they came through to the other side ahead of their off day, and we'll preview the series in Toronto. This was a winnable game and a winnable series, which is, where the Guardians have been. I said coming into the series, they're going to have a chance to win. The Astros had not been playing that well, and we knew their offense was good. We knew their pitching was suspected best, and I gave you all the stats at the beginning of the series. Their pitching was, bottom five or sometimes worst as far as starting pitching goes and the bullpen goes. And their pitching was better than the Guardians this series by a lot. Not by a lot, I should say. Their hitting was better, but their pitching did more than enough to frustrate them on two different occasions. And I don't know if they would have won Monday because Slade pitched so badly, but they certainly had chances to make it more interesting. And obviously the offense came through late on Tuesday, but Wednesday they had chances. They didn't show up. And what did I say at the beginning of the series? I said, if the Guardians were going to win the series against the Astros, which they had a chance to win 2 or 3, if we threw out Monday like we thought we would with Slade Ciccone, they won Wednesday because of the offense showing up late, but they finally showed up. And I said the offense had to score runs this series. And I think any day you hold the Astros to 2 runs with how good this offense is, you have to win. And the Guardians had chances to score more than 2 or more runs, at least push this thing to extra innings, where I would have said the Guardians should win because the Astros have a very light bullpen. Their pitching is just not good in general. I mean, Parker Messick, he was on a pitch count because he pushed a little bit further on Tuesday his last start because of the hopeful no-hitter. So the Guardians were cautious with his pitch count on Tuesday night. No real surprise there. But he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. And as far as I'm concerned, against the Astros offense, that's pretty good, especially considering he was in trouble late and, managed to get out of it. So he did his job. The bullpen held them steady until later. The offense came around late. You were in that game. You had a chance to win. Parker Messick and the bullpen gave you a chance to win the game. The offense took that chance. It took, a very late rally, but they did it. Monday, obviously it wasn't the case, right? They struggled on Monday with Slade, and they never had his runners in scoring position, And then in this game, same thing. Tanner Bibee, he gave up the leadoff home run to Yordan Alvarez in the first inning. It was a Correa single and then a Yordan home run, and I'm sure a lot of people were shaking their heads and ready for impending disaster. But Tanner buckled down from there. The Astros didn't have a lot going on after that. He had, 3 walks in this game total. Maybe it was two walks, and he gave up 2 of those 5 hits in the first inning to start the game, 3 strikeouts. He really held them in check. I mean, he was the only guy all series that had a chance to not lock down Isaac Paredes, and Christian Walker didn't do a whole lot of damage against him, a walk and a hit overall in this game. So, just really unfortunate that they didn't take advantage of the pitching. The bullpen was good behind Tanner in this one. Your 2 starts that you could have won, again, Tanner Bibee went 11 innings, or Tanner Bibee and Parker Messick combined for 11 innings, 5 runs. That's going to have a chance to help you win games. They had chances, and they didn't cash in. I mean, let's just look at the offense and the chances overall. I mean, Tanner didn't allow, I think, a whole lot of base runners after that. The Guardians in this one were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. So that's 0 for 18 if you combine that with Monday. They had a better stretch they had better chances in game 2 where they were 4 for 11. That's great. But the 2 games they lost, They were combined 0 for 18 with runners in scoring position. In the series overall, they allowed 16 runs. They only scored 10, and 8 of those were in one game. That's not going to win you a lot of series. It's just not. The pitching kept you in it, though. Like I said, the bullpen behind Tanner in this one was good. Festa had a great inning. Gaddis was perfect. Sabrowski allowed a hit, so you take away the fact that the bullpen did good in this game. I know Brogdon and Cade Smith allowed a run on Tuesday, but overall, that run in the ninth was meaningless for Cade. He was having some issues with fastball command. They hit De Los Santos, who has been the best reliever of the Astros. They did a good job Tuesday. It just didn't come up on Wednesday. And those are games you have to have and you have to win. Again, like I said, you allow two runs at the Astros this offense, you have to beat them because their pitching shouldn't be good enough to hold you down. Now, Pete Lambert has not been a good pitcher in his career. He came into the season with a 6 ERA. His first outing this year against the Cardinals, he allowed 4 runs in 7 innings. Wasn't even supposed to be a starter. And then in this one, he gave 3 hits and 3 walks. So the Guardians had 6 base runners against them. Should have got at least a run or 2 off Lambert. And, the biggest issue is his changeup is a good pitch. The Guardians, we know, don't. Well, actually, he does have a changeup, but his changeup data against it is pretty pitiful. But the Guardians did not have a good day against it. They whiffed 3 times against it. They didn't put the ball in play against it very hard. Actually, they didn't hit the ball hard at all. The offense just didn't deserve to win this game, plain and simple. It wasn't even, bad at ball luck. They had a 161 expected batting average. They deserved to lose this game offensively. I mean, you had José Ramírez struck out with runners on. Kyle Manzardo did. I don't think having Bo Naylor and Juan Brito next to each other in the lineup is necessarily a great thing because those two are scuffling. Brito is way out of his profile. He's chasing everything. Bo Naylor, I know he had the 1 home run. We were like, okay, maybe this is it because the data said Bo Naylor was getting unlucky, so it was bound to turn around, right? It hasn't. He hit the home run. Nothing's changed since. He went 0 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout, and those two combined 0 for 6. Rocchio is one of their best hitters in the series. He went 0 for 4, and I know someone's going to say move Rocchio up in the lineup, but no, I think it's good at the 9 hole. Like, I think he's good there because he gets you runners on in front of Juan, DeLauder, and Jose. But, Juan was 1 for 3 in this game with a walk himself, even though his at-bat late in the game was pretty poor. DeLauder had 2 hits, he had a chance. They had chances to score runs in this game. Not as many as Monday, but they literally had chances. They went 0 for 6 in this one. And if you look at Jeff's box score bingo, they had 10 base runners total, 9 base runners. Yeah, nine base runners. That should get you at least 3 or 4 runs. 3 is all you needed to win this game. Would the bullpen have held it at 3? Gaddis did. I mean, unless you worry about Cade Smith's struggles, the bullpen probably holds this down. The Astros offense was literally just Yordan Alvarez. I mean, it's like LeBron James, right? Or back in the day, or whoever you want to look at offensively in the NBA. So those guys are going to get their points. They're going to get their runs. They're going to get their hits. They're going to have their impact. And the Astros lineup is such that, Altuve's numbers don't look great, but he's had a good season so far. I would much rather handle pitching to Altuve or, Walker has been good, but you can pitch around Yordan Alvarez, but you have enough guys behind him that make you think, like Altuve and Walker. And I know Paredes hasn't had the best year, but he's still pretty good. It makes you think about pitching around those guys. So you just say, you know what, Alvarez is going to get his. We can't let anybody else beat us. And obviously that wasn't the case Monday because Slade Ciccone struggled. But in this game, that was the case. Alvarez did beat you, and nobody else did. So as far as I'm concerned, the pitching did their job. We'll talk about more of the offense, what they did and didn't do. And the Guardians just finished a 13-game day stretch in 13 days. How did they do? We're going to discuss that and break down those series on today's Locked On Guardians. Stay tuned. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, then you know how tough it is to find the perfect treat without any sugar or guilt. That is why the Confetti Craze 5-hour energy shot brings us that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Classic taste that we all remember, right? Tasty caffeine boost, 0 sugar, quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving, keeping things simple on the go. I love the taste of vanilla buttery cake flavors, and I like to eat sweets and not have any sort of guilt or sugar crash. Really, I need the energy these days with my illness recently. So I really could use a sweet treat pick me up that's going to give me energy and none of the guilt. And that is the Funfetti flavor that is back on 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Crack open the Confetti Craze 5-Hour Energy Shot today. Can't wait to get my hands on some. It is going to become my go-to for something sweet without going overboard when I need that little bit of energy. Welcome on in to another episode of Locked On Guardians, and thanks for being here and supporting us. You know the drill. It's the Everydayer Club, right? We are having such fun over there on Discord with our private chat with all the listeners of the show, as well as other fans of other teams. You can check out the Everydayer Club and get ad-free episodes of Locked On Guardians, access the group chat with me and Jeff, everybody else. If you tap the link in the show notes, or go to lockedonguardians.supercast.com. And that's different than the insiders group, which we'll talk about a little bit later because I haven't pitched that in a while. And I know some of the insiders are a little bit confused about that, but if you want to be part of the group chat, it is something different. It is the Everydayer Club, and it is, again, link is in the show notes, and it's lockedonguardians.supercast.com. So let's look at the Guardians' best chances to win in this game and see where things fell down. I thought it was pretty easy. In the first inning, it would have been nice to get some response runs, right? You had 2 on and 2 out for Valera. Jose was at second. So if Valera, I think Manzardo, or I'm sorry, was it Manzardo that got on behind Jose in the first inning, or was it Juan or DeLauder ahead of him? No, it was in the first inning. It was there's just 1 on. Okay, it was Manzardo walk. That's right. So Jose was on second base with 2 outs. And it would have been nice to get that response run. I feel like things might have played differently for the Guardians on Wednesday had they gotten that early response run. But George Valera flew out, and, it would have been deep enough to get a sac fly in, but you had 2 outs. But, just, again, that first inning is where you want to strike, right? That's where you get a lot of pitchers is that first inning, which is what the Astros did to Tanner Bibee, right? Didn't get that one in, so Valera doesn't come through. And then in the third inning, because all you would have needed is a base hit. Again, base hit scores Jose from second all the time, especially with 2 outs. So you would have had 2-1 at the very least there. In the third inning, Jose was up with 2 on and 1 out. That was probably their best chance. And again, early in the game, things could change very differently. You have a Juan single right there. You have DeLauder at the single, so Juan's on second. And unfortunately, Jose had that long at bat, the 6-pitch at bat. You always think the longer that bat goes, Jose's going to have a better chance to win because that's normally what he does. And he missed a changeup in the zone. He missed a fastball in the zone that were foul tips, and he got the count back to 3-2 and swung at a ball, high fastball. He wanted to attack a fastball from Lambert. I get it, just a poor pitch selection there. So, Manzardo was much worse than that, actually. If you look at it, it was a 6-pitch at bat, but he didn't chase anything out of the zone, actually, but he missed a lot of pitches in the zone. He took 2 balls in that one, and he fouled a couple off, but that's tough. You have 2 on and 1 out, and 3-4 hitters don't come through. That's, a recipe for disaster offensively. And they didn't really have a chance to score again until the 8th inning. I mean, they were pretty much shut down from there. You had a Quan walk during that stretch. Valera got on with an error at one point, but nobody really did anything against Lambert the whole game from there on. So they didn't really get another chance until the 8th inning. And that was a single by DeLauder against AJ Bluebaugh. And then Jose smashed one to the ground. Correa made a great play. Give him credit. Correa gave a great play. Jose had I believe a 550 expected batting average on that grounder to shortstop. And they almost turned a double play. Luckily, the Astros challenged it, and Jose was still safe. It could have been close. So you had DeLauder erased at second on the ground out, and then you had Rhys Hoskins come in and pinch hit for Kama and Zardos because they wanted a righty versus, I guess, what would have been Steven Okert. Was that the right call? I don't know. I think Okert probably at that point had thrown 16 pitches. He probably stays in to face Manzardo if you don't bring in Hoskins, but Hoskins being on deck, they decided to go to De Los Santos, and De Los Santos, who they crushed on Wednesday, got the better of Rhys Hoskins. It's going to be hard for Rhys Hoskins, I think, to build a lot of momentum this year playing part-time. I know he was brought into play against lefties, but that's not really a position he's ever played in his career. We didn't think about that evaluating the signing of Rhys Hoskins, that he's never been a platoon player. He's hit versus both sides of the mound from pitchers most of his career. He's never been relegated to a platoon, but he wanted an opportunity. He wanted to play for somebody. Nobody else was calling, and he took that opportunity. Again, that's why you see like guys like Lane Thomas or Austin Hayes took other jobs, but guess what? Thomas isn't playing against left righties, and I think probably the same for Austin Hayes. He might even be hurt. I haven't seen him in a while. So Rhys Hoskins was the only guy that answered that call, and he's been okay, but he obviously wasn't good in this one. They had a lot to be desired offensively in this game. That might be a role that's hard for him to adjust to. Like, he's had some walks at times. He has the one homer. He had the game where he had the 3 doubles. He had a double on Monday and got thrown out trying to stretch it, or the single, I should say. Might be a hard role for him to adjust to here. I don't know what the answer is, because you got to play Manzardo every day. You want to leave the DH spot open for DeLauder once a week. Jose, they like to DH once a week. It might be twice, considering he DH'd today and he'll probably DH on Sunday. They get him 2 days, Jose 2 days off in a row with DHing today and off on Thursday. So finding at bats for Hoskins might be hard, and I don't want to blame him. It was a bad at bat. Like, it was bad. And that was the Guardians, like, wasn't a great chance because it was just one on. But I mean, if that ground ball gets through to shortstop, I wonder how much that changes things. Maybe you can second guess and say, I'd rather go with Manzardo against Okert than Hoskins versus De Los Santos, because Hoskins is cold. Let's face it. He forced Okert out of the game, and I think De Los Santos is probably a better reliever than Okert. And Manzardo had a couple hits against lefties this series. He's had a couple hits against lefties this year. I might have rather tested him against the lefty if that would have kept Okert in the game, which at 16 pitches I think it would have. Maybe that's the better. I mean, DeLauder had a tough at bat. He chased one. He's been having a hard time because he's getting pitched outside, and he did a good job Tuesday night taking that ball the other way. So I would have maybe on second guess liked to have seen Manzardo hit against Okert there instead of bringing in the better reliever, especially because Okert had a hard time finding the plate at times in this one. So you can nitpick at that, I guess. And in the 9th inning, they stuck with De Los Santos, and he probably would have came in no matter what at that point. Schneemann got on with a ground ball single that luckily was not booted. I guess they didn't call it an error, but misplayed by Altuve. They turned it into a hit, which is nice. Martinez had a decent at bat. He had not a decent at bat, I should say. He had a pop up where it was dropped. It kept him in the game, and then he flew out to right. Didn't really have anything on it, and the Bo Naylor walk was pretty nice. He stayed patient against De Los Santos. Only took one strike. Didn't even swing at a ball, didn't even swing at a pitch in that at bat. So I guess you had first and second for Brayan Rocchio, which with 2 outs. I mean, hey, Rocchio's had some good moments this series, and we know he likes the pressure situation. Maybe someone should have told Rocchio it was October. He would have come through there. But the Guardians, all in all, had 1, 2, 3. We'll call it 4 chances to score really good in this game. The first inning and the 3rd inning were their biggest ones. The 8th inning, I guess it's not a bad scoring situation, but not the best. I would probably say the 9th was their next best, with Schneemann on second and Bo at first when Rocchio came to the plate. That's probably their 3rd best. So, between the 3rd and the 8th inning, they didn't have really any opportunities to score runs. That's going to limit you, and that's disappointing against an Astros pitching staff that has just really struggled this season. Really got to do better than that. And again, I hope this isn't a series that you look at it in September and say, man, wish we would have had that one, which the Guardians had a couple times in the stretch of 13 games in 13 days, right? We're talking about the Cardinals series as well. Speaking of that, the Guardians did finish a 13 game and 13 day stretch. How did they do? We're going to discuss that next on today's Locked On Guardians. I don't like workplace chaos, and neither should you. Who does, really? You have a deadline stacking up, your inbox overflowing, and you're trying to fill that position that's still sitting open. Pressure's on. You need the right hire, and that's a job for Indeed. sponsored jobs because it's going to help you reach people who fit what you're looking for with the skills, the experience, location. You're not just hoping the right candidate comes across your post. The stat that really tells the story here, the minute we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, which all of us are doing sometimes, spend less time searching, more time interviewing, more results with Indeed sponsored jobs. Going to check all your boxes. Listeners of Locked On Guardians, you get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support the show, saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Guardians. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Appreciate y'all being here despite another series loss and showing up every day. We show up every day for you, and you show up every day for us. So we appreciate that. So if you haven't had a chance yet, hit the bell on YouTube to get notified of all our videos when they post live, whether it's a new episode, reaction video to the game, any sort of news, any sort of bonus content that we'll do from time to time as well. And then again, just please always auto download on all your favorite audio platforms so you can listen to us on the plane ride. Like I'm going to be flying home on Thursday. I'll be listening to some podcasts as well. So check that out. And again, appreciate you making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, whatever you get podcasts. We love being part of your routine because this is our routine to show up here. And you all made it Locked On Sports Network, the #1 sports podcast network. So can't thank you enough for all your support. And if you want a little more, maybe you're not a group, you're not like a group chat kind of person. You like just some notifications to your phone that gives you the news, the updates, some interaction. That is joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. And you can sign up there to be an insider. They also get to give us mailbag questions, which we'll do for Friday's show. And again, anytime I have news, I send it out there, and I'll chat with anybody on there about baseball, reactions to the games, whatever. A little interaction there as well. So, all right, 13 games in 13 days. That is a difficult stretch for anybody. It doesn't matter what team you are. It doesn't matter who you're facing. That schedule alone, April or August, it's difficult for multiple reasons. Early in the season, you might have a little bit less wear and tear than you would have in August because it's just this long season. The hot temperatures, at least for Cleveland, haven't really piled up at this point. But the issue early on is you're not really built up for that volume, right? You're coming out of spring training where your volume is built up carefully, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter. And then because of the early season schedule and in the north, when you don't have a dome with the weather, you schedule in some off days, right? So you're used to playing, every other day or 2 games, 3 games, and then it's like an off day, and then 3 or 4, maybe play 6 in a row or 7 in a row, and you get a day off. 13 games in 13 days is hard. So we need to acknowledge that as well. I know these are professionals. Someone might say, I don't care how hard the schedule is. They make millions of dollars. And sure, that's fine. They're still human. It tests your ability to have endurance early in the season, right? You don't have a lot of wear and tear, but you're still building up your volume, which could be a good thing, but you also have to consider the endurance part of it. So it's going to test your starting pitching depth to make sure they can go deep enough in all 13 of those games not to destroy your bullpen, which did and didn't happen on this stretch. Going to test your bullpen management because you have to be careful of not overthrowing guys early in the year, getting them proper days off. And it just tests the overall depth of your roster. Like everyone's got to contribute and play. And that's 1 through 26. And the Guardians went 6-7 in this. I know 6-7 in the stretch. And unfortunately, even though the series, I guess, don't matter as much because it's just the record overall. But they played 4 series. They lost 3 of them. You lost 2 or 3 in Atlanta to start it off. You lost 2 or 3 in St. Louis after that. And then you came home for 7 games against Baltimore and Houston, who aren't good teams or at least have, a lot of warts. And you took 3 or 4 from Baltimore, which is good. And I mentioned that the starting pitching gave them a chance to win pretty much every game, or at least 3 out of the 4. And the starting pitching again did that in 2 out of 3 against Houston. You should have, you did win the game, the Parker Messick pitch, because the offense showed up late. And then Tanner Bibee had the best start of anybody in this series, honestly. 6 innings, 2 runs. Nobody pitched better against the Astros from a starting rotation than Tanner Bibee did, especially considering he gave the first inning 2-run homer. He was great after that. So it's just disappointing to go 6-7 in a 13-game stretch. Does one more win make a difference? Like, I guess right now, not really, but Again, it could in September. It's the same thing we talked about with the St. Louis series. Like, you hope these games they lost, these 2 or 3s, if you turn the 2 or 3 wins to Houston and St. Louis, you're talking about an 8-5 stretch and a 13-game stretch, and that's going to matter in September. You hope you make up for it in time where it doesn't, but it might. So in this 13-game stretch, how did the Guardians do? Well, coming into this final game, they had a 5.13 ERA as a team, so not fantastic. But the rotation, 4.28 ERA in that stretch. Tanner brought it down a little bit with this start, but obviously 2 games started in the stretch by Slade Ciccone is going to wear on that a lot. Everybody else I thought was pretty good in this stretch. The bullpen as a whole in this stretch, though, was not good either. 6.63 ERA, and a lot of that had to do with the Houston, the St. Louis series, obviously, and the one game against Baltimore where they blew Tanner starting that one as well. They should have won that game. Probably should have had a 4-game slip against Baltimore and should have won 2 out of 3 against St. Louis. Should have won 2 out of 3 against Houston. And again, everyone's going to say shoulda, woulda, coulda. But again, those are wins that might matter at the end of the year, which is the disappointing thing. From a player aspect in the series, Cade Smith appeared in 5 games. He had a 174 FIP in these 5 games, so he actually wasn't that bad. He had 2 saves. Peyton Paulette was pretty good out of the bullpen, I thought, on the bullpen side of things. Eric Sabrowski struggled because he had a couple bad games. Connor Brogdon, the bullpen as a whole, just was not good. Hunter Gaddis had 3 appearances in this stretch, or I should say 4. Not good early, but he was better as of late. And obviously, Parker Messick was by far and away your best starter in this stretch. 3 starts in this 13-game stretch, 2.30 ERA. Doesn't get much better. I think he should get some love for AL Pitcher of the Month. He should get some love for AL Rookie of the Month, if we're being honest. We'll have to talk about this in the future, but the Guardians' best shot for a Rookie of the Year in 2026 might be Parker Messick, may not be Chase Slaughter. Gavin Williams, awesome in this stretch too, 2.25 ERA in 2 starts. Tanner Bibee made 3 starts in this one, and look, the ERA is going to say 6.75 because he struggled in Atlanta, but it was a 3.80 FIP that went down in this one too. So Tanner was good in this stretch too. Joey Cantillo actually had a 6.61 FIP in this stretch, so he struggled a little bit as well. So honestly, Parker, Tanner, and Gavin had good stretches. Joey was okay, and obviously Slade not so great. On the hitter side of things, a 111 WRC plus against this stretch coming into today, so a little above average, not great. Could have been much better from an offensive standpoint, still slugging below 400, hit 14 homers. As for the players in this stretch for the Guardians, so in the 13-day stretch, who came through? Daniel Schneemann came through as the best hitter, and he played against a lefty this week, and he played against, he was in there against Okert, and who was the other lefty? No, just Okert. So Daniel Schneemann was in there today too against the lefty. They started to trust him a little bit more. He had a great stretch. He's got to keep playing. Jose Ramírez, 228 WRC plus in these games. Didn't come through, unfortunately, on Thursday like he needed. Brian Rocchio was your 3rd best hitter, 179 WRC plus. Actually, Manzardo was pretty good. A little more power, struck out a ton. Had a 500 BABIP. That's going to help him out. David Fry, actually a 102 WRC plus, not great. Everybody else was below average. Chase Slaughter, 87 WRC plus, not great. Stephen Juan continues to struggle. Bo Naylor, an 18 WRC plus, despite the 1 home run against Baltimore that we thought was going to get him going. Austin Hedges, an 8. So offensively, he's coming back to earth. Juan Brito, -5. It has not been a good rookie stretch for Juan Brito. That's just very unfortunate. I guess the other side of things is they're healthy, right? Like, you got in this stretch, you got Hunter Gaddis back. All your starters are healthy. All your position players are healthy. The only move you really made was Colby Allard up and down to get some pitching depth. So you made it through the stretch healthy. Cade Smith seems to be on the other side of some struggles. Gaddis is back. Tanner Bibee's last 2 starts have been really good. Parker's been great. Joey's had to battle some adversity. Chase Slaughter had the big hit on Tuesday. We'll see how that translates going forward. I mean, he's got to figure it out. You got some guys in the lineup who are doing things, but you're not getting much from Quan, and I don't know. There's no solution at leadoff if he can't do it. I still like Jose hitting second, but they're just not going to do it, and I understand why. Maybe lead off Chase DeLauder and put Jose second. I don't know what you do with Quan from there, but if he doesn't get it going again, I'd like to move him a little bit. But overall, like this was, I think 6-7 is a pretty accurate portrayal of this team in this 13 game stretch. They are 14-12 right now. I think they have the record they deserve. The bullpen has been a little bit shaky, and they're getting better. I think the rotation's been great. The offense has been spotty at times. Obviously, they could have won again. They could have swept Baltimore with a better bullpen. They could have won 2 or 3 from Houston with a better offense. I don't know what they'll do to get Slade going, but I think 6-7 during this stretch is probably well deserved, considering they had, 2 really bad bullpen hiccups between St. Louis and Baltimore, and then just offense that didn't perform on Wednesday. I won't even count Monday's loss. I'll just chalk it up to Slade Cecconi struggling, and I don't know they would have scored enough runs even if they cashed in on most of those opportunities. They could have made it close. But again, like I said, 6-7 in this 13 game stretch. Should have had 4, 5. Yeah, I think at best they would have gone 7-6. I mean, I guess maybe 8-5, because I would have said 4-4. I mean, sweeping up 4 game series is tough, but even if I give them that 4 game sweep, if the bullpen holds Tanner's lead on Friday, you win 4 of those games. You win 2 of the games in St. Louis, so that's 6. You'll win 2 against Houston. Yeah, it's 8-5. So I guess they could have been 8-5. 6-7 sounds about right. The Guardians will have an off day on Thursday, much needed at this point, and they will head to Toronto. That's going to be an interesting series. That is a good Toronto team. The offense is really good. You got Gavin Williams versus Max Scherzer. Max is a little bit older these days, not quite as good as he used to be, but still a very tough customer, knows how to pitch, and I wouldn't expect that to be easy. Joey Cantillo versus Kevin Gausman. I'm not sure about Cantillo in that game, but Kevin Gausman versus the Guardians offense doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Kevin Gausman has that nasty splitter, and that is not a pitch the Guardians do well against, because they're just not good against changeups. So I would like to win the Gavin start, because I feel like the Cantillo-Gausman thing might be up in the air, just because I don't know how Cantillo will pitch, and I could see the offense really struggling with Gausman. And then the finale in that one on Sunday is Slade Cecconi and Dylan Cease. So that might be a 1-3 series, one out of 3 series, because hard to believe Slade Cecconi is going to put it back together in that start. We'll see. And Dylan Cease is a tough customer. If you get 2 or 3, that's great. The Astros series kind of turned out how I thought it would as far as the offense was concerned. And unfortunately, the Guardians offense just didn't show up. And I said they would need to. You can't score 10 runs in 3 games and expect to beat the Astros offense, especially when 8 won 1 game. Guardians should have won this one on Monday, and we'll see what happens on Friday in Toronto. I don't know if Cecconi and Cease is a great matchup. So win Friday and then hope for the best. Got to win. I think Friday is, if you're going to win that series, if you're talking about just that series alone, I think Friday is a must win. You got to win the Gavin start and hope for the best over that final 2 or 3 and see what happens. That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Guardians. Appreciate you all tuning in again and being here with us, win or lose, frustration or excitement. I know there was a lot of excitement on Wednesday, and of course, Jeff had that covered, and I have the loss covered that was disappointing. Friday's show, we'll be back together again, and we will definitely talk. We'll do a mailbag. So insiders and all of our everydayers, we will get that message out to you to send us mailbag questions, make them good. And then I know Jeff's been itching to talk draft. The NFL draft is Thursday, so the MLB draft deserves some attention, I think, over on our side. So mailbag questions and MLB draft talk coming your way on Friday. Hope you all have a great Thursday or whenever you're listening to this. And in the meantime, leave us an iTunes review if you can, or Apple Podcasts, whatever they're called these days. Download daily, you know the drill, all that good stuff. And in the meantime, go Guardians, go. Get outside, enjoy that off day, and let's hope they go to Canada and find the offense. And the pitching is better than we hope.